Have a good battle, friend.
We've got some new cards to talk about this week. So we've had more reveals, not as many as last week. We've got, I think, about 8 cards to talk about this week. But before we get into the actual new cards, we also have to talk about, I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was posted by the Hearthstone team. It was retweeted all over Twitter and stuff. But Amazing LP has done another video, and it is actually amazing. So I'm sure you guys remember this this group from past expansions and past card reveals and stuff, but like this video was really, really long, and I don't know how many people they have working on their team now, but oh my god, the amount of like effects, like this is giving me so many like Harry Potter vibes and stuff. They're all like walking around like Scholomance and like flying around on brooms and stuff. And oh man, it was so well done. If you guys haven't seen it, again, link will be in the show notes, but I loved this. I loved this.
It's go out of your way to watch this.
Yeah.
The Amazing LP always does amazing work. But it feels like the quality has really stepped up every single video they've done. This one felt like a Harry Potter short, or almost a Looney Tunes sort of thing. It
like
had
they've
some slapstick comedy.
Fan videos. It's like they're not quite movie quality yet, but they're not like fans making videos in their basement anymore either. Like they're this in between thing that's just, it's so fun and so cool. And I love their sense of humor, and the cosplay is amazing.
The Kel'thuzad beard, and I don't know for sure. I feel like it was the same guy that played Uther back in the old.
You might be right. Question mark?
Yeah, I forget the name of those 3 videos they did that were super cornball humor that I loved, but they stopped doing. But the guy that played Uther, it felt like the same guy.
I think you might be right, but yeah. So again, link is in the show notes, but it's on YouTube. It's on the main Hearthstone YouTube account, the Hearthstone Twitter account tweeted out and everything. So I'm sure you guys can find it. Definitely go and check it out. And yeah, so one of the cards that was revealed in that video was Headmaster Kel'thuzad. So we've seen him now. We know what he does. He is a 5-mana 4/6. So already 5-mana 4/6, Deece. But then he's got Spell Burst that says, if the spell destroys any minions, summon them. So in the video, it showed the 5-mana Headmaster Kel'thuzad being played, and then Brawl being played, Brawl killing everything except for the Headmaster, and then everything coming back on their side of the board, which technically is an interaction that you can have, but because of the way Spell Burst works, this spell has to go off and resolve, and then the Spell Burst mechanic resolves. So if Headmaster Kel'thuzad had died in the Brawl, then the Spell Burst would not go off. So it's the kind of thing like Yogg, when it used to kill itself, then it would stop casting. Same sort of idea. If the Headmaster dies through the playing of the spell, you won't get the Spell Burst effect. So something to definitely keep in mind. But this seems... again, talking about elegant design, this seems potentially very powerful, but at the same time does require some sort of combo mechanic. And if we're looking at spells that specifically destroy minions, they tend to have quite a high cost to them. So this isn't the kind of thing that you're necessarily going to be seeing like on turn 5, where, you know, they'll get a 4/6, they'll kill one of your things and also get it back on their side of the board. Probably not going to happen.
No, it could.
It could, but edge case.
Yes, I would. So Spell Burst, on the one hand, if you're ahead and the board is empty and then you play this, your opponent's going to be hesitant to play anything good unless they can straight up just kill this, because
because not a battle cry. So
right, exactly, it's a battle rattle, so it just kind of lives there. It just kind of lives there. But most likely, I think you're right. I think this will be paired with a removal spell the turn you play it. It's going to be tricky to use, but if you can get it to work, it will swing the board in a really major way. So you have to be careful as well. Anything that you kill doesn't come back with buffs. If you kill an 8/8 Edwin, you get a 2/2 Edwin.
Right.
So you want to make sure you're careful of that. And also, don't go Kel'thuzad coin Siphon Soul, because the coin does not kill anything, and then you'll be very sad.
Yes.
Spell Burst only works one time, and it will eat the coin, and it does not give you any change back. So be aware, you won't get anything out of it. The coolest application I can think of is the Shaman spell Torrent, which is 4 mana, deal 8 to a minion if you played a spell last turn. It costs 1. Kel'thuzad, Torrent something, get the big thing. That's a 6 mana for a 4/6, kill a thing, get a thing. That's really, really cool. In Wild, there are a lot of options here. If you're willing to go to Wild, the one that I like the most, it doesn't say enemy minions. So if you have Dark Pact, the 1 mana spell that eats a minion gains 4 life, you can eat something and then get it back. Now, if it had a battle cry, you don't get the battle cry back or whatever, but
Pretty standard Hearthstone rule set, though.
yeah, but I just like the possibilities here. There's so much that could be done here. It can be a control swing card, can be a nutty combo card, and it can also kind of sort of be a reasonable threat. You just play it out, and your opponent has to decide what do they want to do. Because if you play this, and then your opponent is, say, they're a Demon Hunter, and they go Satyr, Overseer, attack you, and you Blizzard them or Breath of the Infinite, you get back all those minions, and that can be really scary.
We've got a couple of spells to talk about as well. So this one, Combustion, was also featured in that amazing LP video that we talked about. It is a 3 mana epic mage spell that says deal 4 damage to a minion. And this is really cool. Any excess damages both neighbors, which means if you damage something in the middle with 2 health, then 2 damage is going to go to both neighbors for a total of 6 damage. So this is really, really cool design. And I love when you're going to be like potentially like playing against mages or rogues, because they can discover this too. Like you really have to start thinking about minion positioning again, which is really, really cool and interesting. Like you want to put your high health stuff in the middle so that it soaks most of the combustion damage. Because if you put your little 1/1 tokens in the middle, then that 3 damage is going to go roll in places that you probably don't want it to. So yeah, this is really cool design from both a play and counterplay perspective.
Card is sweet. But and also nice Satyr Overseer, because yeah, that minion can burn.
Yep. We are so on the same page with Demon Hunter. Just no more Demon Hunter.
Yeah, well, I played a little Demon Hunter today. I didn't want to bring it up. It's okay.
I'll finish the show on my own. Get out.
Okay, but why don't we talk about, Control Demon Hunter? I think Control Demon Hunter has some opportunity to be interesting and different, a different kind of deck than we've seen before, and they printed a new Control Demon Hunter card. I'll jump right in if you're ready.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Cycle of Hatred. This is a 7 mana Demon Hunter spell. Cycle of Hatred. It's a rare. Deal 3 damage to all minions. Summon a 3/3 spirit for every minion killed. Okay. This is different than what we've seen from Demon Hunter before. Because Demon Hunter before is slashy, smashy, right? And this is no slashing, no smash. Well, like it hits the minions, but doesn't go face. And it makes a bunch of spirits. It rewards you for sacrificing your own minions if you have some starting the turn. And it's also a decent AoE spell. It's not quite as strong as Flame Strike, but it gives you the board after. And generally, when you're able to generate initiative, when you're able to both kill stuff and make stuff, you're happy. And if you can get to this point in the game with Demon Hunter, you're suddenly going to have a full board out of nowhere. But it requires very precise setup. I like this idea a lot, and it promotes a different archetype for Demon Hunter than we've seen before. Like, we've seen some Control Demon Hunter, but this is really about board control through and through and can't really be used aggressively. I like the idea that they're exploring more opportunities for DH.
Right, and especially, like you said, at that 7 mana cost, Cycle of Hatred does feel like it's made to be more of a control archetype. Or right when Demon Hunter first came out, like I feel like the first day, like not even the first day, it's like just before they realized how crazy broken all the other archetypes were, some people were trying to actually make a token style Demon Hunter playable. And then they went, oh wait, all this other stuff way more broken, screw tokens. So it seems like this card is another kind of entry into that potential archetype of Demon Hunter, where it's, very much a kind of controlling little demons and kind of like Warlocky-esque, and in that they want to have a whole bunch of little minions on their side, little demons doing their bidding because they've dominated them and they're in control now. Like that's very like Demon Hunter fantasy. So yeah, that's our kind of spell reveals that have happened in this past week. We also got some more class specific reveals. So looking a little bit at Rogue now, we got a 4 mana 4/2 called Infiltrator Lillian, who has stealth and a death rattle that reads, summon a 4/2 Forsaken Lillian that attacks a random enemy, which is really super cool.
The flavor here is so good.
The lore
it's
in this
so
card
good.
is just chef's kiss. I love it.
Yeah, and also it's a Lillian Voss that's playable, unlike the last one.
Yeah. You notice she doesn't have her last name here, but we know who you are. We see you, Lillian.
Yeah, and we may not have the last name, but you know we're asking who's the Voss.
Stop it. Get some help.
Huh? Huh?
Oh man, how many times in one episode can I tell Hat to get out? I think we're up to 3 now.
we can aim for the record here. Listen, we're setting records all day. Let's get the high water mark. We'll see if there are any challengers. What do you think of this card?
I like this card a lot. I think it's really cool. I like you said earlier, with the idea of stealth and secrets being very roguey. Like, she does fit that rogue kind of fantasy really, really well. You know, she's, again, they're really sticking with class identity here in an expansion where we were potentially worried about it. And, you know, a 4/2 with stealth is pretty cool. And then the fact that you get another 4/2 spitting out of that afterwards, that you don't have to worry about, you know, like you're going to get that attack. And it also says random enemies. So there's a chance, you know, if your opponent's board is empty, then that thing can go face, and then they've got a 4/2 they have to deal with after. I think, you know, the 4 mana slot there, it's not too expensive for something like this. I think this is really good. And the fact that the first half has stealth, right? Like, it allows you to probably protect it and decide where it's going to attack your next turn.
I like this card a lot. I do think it's pretty solid. It's I think it compares favorably to Piloted Shredder most of the time. Now, there's a lot of play to it as well. If you just play this on 4 and attack on 5, and your opponent has some minions in hand even, they can decide how they want to play it out. It's usually, I think, in favor of the player who pops it on their own turn. Mm-hmm. So if I'm on my turn and I clear off a bunch of your little minions and then I pop this with the last one, I can either trade with the one big thing I left up, or I can go face for free. Like that. If you get to pop this on your turn, if you get to pop my Lillian, then you can play a bunch of minions first, and maybe you play like a 2/1 Murloc and then attack this with something else, and then it trades into 2/1 Murloc, and it's favorable for you. There's a lot of play to it, a lot of dynamic interaction, but it's really nice against removal. Say you play this against a priest and they go Breath the Infinite. Okay, you take 4 on your turn, then 4 on my turn. Breath the Infinite deals you 8 damage. All about to take that priest. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I live my life, just figuring out how to hit priests. But there's opportunity here for this to generate a lot of value by trading twice. It can be a threat that's hard to remove with removal. It can be something that you're able to control the board with. And the 4 mana slot is doesn't really have a lot going on for Rogue right now. And it fits really nicely with stealth cards. So I think it's a cool design. And I think that we'll see it in Constructed.
And speaking of the 4 mana slot, the second minion that we had revealed this week, which is a rogue warrior minion, also fits into that 4 mana slot. It's called the Steel Dancer, and it is a 4 mana 4/4 with a battle cry saying summon a random minion with a cost equal to your weapon's attack, which is really cool. Like, it's such an interesting effect. So in Rogue, like, Rogue is the kind of easier side of this rogue warrior mix, I think, because they have a hero power, obviously, that just gives them a weapon. So if you're rogue, this is pretty much guaranteed to be at least a 4 mana 4/4 plus a 1-drop, right? If you're a warrior, then, you know, maybe that's a little bit more difficult just because you don't have the weapon like in hand ready to go all the time. But, you know, they've got tons of weapons. They've got, like, even weapons are seeing a lot of play in warrior right now. So, I mean, maybe this is something that could potentially go in both classes. I don't know. It's a really cool design. And again, finding the common ground between the two classes being, you know, like, rogues and warriors both like weapon things, like, that's a really, really cool middle ground.
Yeah, they're both very stabby classes. Well, Rogue is more stabby, and Warrior is more smashy.
Yeah, Rogue is definitely stabby, and then Warrior is just like, I'm gonna rip you to pieces.
Yeah, but the Rogue is over here putting deadly poison on their weapon, and the Warrior's on the other side of the cafeteria just Corsair caching, and then they both just like kind of make eye contact across the room. It's like, hey, do you like weapons? I like weapons too. Are we just best friends now?
What? Did we just become best friends?
Yup!
Yep.
and now they're best friends. And so you can deadly poison here, you can Corsair Cash here, you can do whatever you want to do. Rogue is more likely to have a weapon. Warrior is more likely to have a good weapon, I think,
Right.
because of Corsair Cash and how that's really playing out in standard right now. And there are a bunch of ways you can go about it. Like something, say you play the Imprisoned Warrior 1-drop. If you play that on turn 2, and then you get a 3/2 weapon on turn 4 and then play Steel Dancer, that's pretty sweet.
Agreed. And so that brings us to our last kind of class, air quotes, today, because there's a warlock focused, but 2 of the cards are the warlock priest dual class cards. So we've got a warlock, air quotes, focus here. So first up, we're going to talk about Disciplinarian Gambling, which is a 4-mana 3/6 priest warlock legendary minion that says, after you play a minion, destroy it and summon a 4/4 failed student. Which, this just seems ridiculous and gross. And I love that it's kind of like, it seems very like zoo-like, but then I love that it's paired with priest, because this kind of feels like it's pushing priests potentially off the crazy like 2 to 3 minion res pool shenanigan train, and more into this like make a bunch of zombie dudes kind of thing. I like this. It's powerful enough to maybe get them out of that way of thinking.
Encouraging a priest as well. Board development, all about the board development.
Yeah.
I do think gambling, the initial response, the initial thought I have is Zoo has a lot of 1-mana minions, and I can play if you go Gambling into on 5-mana, Gambling and Fiendish Servant, the 2/1 that when it dies it gives attack something else.
Yep.
Then you get a 5/6 and a 4/4 for 5-mana. Great deal, very good deal. But it works really well with death rattles.
Mhm.
Priest sometimes does death rattle-y things, and a board full of 4/4s that isn't really something that only one class is looking for. It's if you just want a bunch of cheap 4/4s, any class will sign up for that. Doesn't matter if you're a druid, yeah, I'll take some 4/4s. You're demon hunter, yeah, I'll take some 4/4s too. Everybody wants 4/4s. So priest can find a way here that it's just looking to make a board and buff the minions,
Yeah.
which they can do now because there's no more divine spirit. So you can print cards like Frazzled Freshman and Apotheosis, and then you play this and you play a Disciple of Galakrond and you eat it and you get a 4/4 and a random minion in your hand, and then you can just make something huge the next turn. It's cool. I like it a lot.
We should also mention that it does specifically say after you play a minion. So if you have anything that's going to be summoning minions, those summons don't suddenly become 4/4s. They have to be minions that you're playing out of your hand. So I think that kind of curbs the power level of this card in a good way, because if it was summons, it would just be gross, including because of this next warlock card, 2-mana 0/2 Bone Web Egg with a death rattle summoning 2/1 spiders. If you discard this, trigger its death rattle. So can you imagine like playing this Bone Web Egg and getting a 4/4 and then also 2 more 4/4s because you summon spiders? Like, it's so good. The Disciplinarian Gambling is played minions, not summoned minions, because that would just be a ridiculous combination for 6 mana.
I'm glad they caught that, because I don't want to go Gambling 4/4s, more 4s. Like, I don't want that many, too many 4s.
Too many 4s.
And the text here, I don't know how good Bone Web Egg's going to be, because a 0/2 that makes 2/1s, it's a little sketchy, and the discard trigger is hard to reliably make work.
Yeah, unless your entire deck revolves around discarding things, which maybe that's something that you want to do more over in Wild, because you just have so many more tools to make a discard warlock actually functional. But I am definitely with Zeratio in the chat room. The art on this thing is a thing of nightmares. If this never sees play, I am totally down, because that just, oh God, that gives me all kinds of like, the scary stories you tell in the dark and the girl with the spiders under her skin. That's what this reminds me of.
Dude. We can talk about something else. We can talk about something else. Yeah. But I will say, I do have bad news. This is a 2-drop, so you will see this off Ace of Slackies. I'm sorry, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you discard this trigger, it's death rattle. I think that is a cool way of making a card discard friendly without being explicit.
Right.
Just like they did with Hand of Gul'dan. In current standard, most of the discard cards being play is discard the highest cost in your hand.
Mhm.
And if that's going to be Boneweb Egg, then you've probably gotten rid of all your good cards already. But it's that particular implementation of discard, I think, makes the mechanical a little bit more palatable. And
Yeah, a
every
little bit
so
more
often this will be fun.
forgiving. Because I think
Yeah.
that it kind of needs to be forgiving to see play, but it needs to be forgiving in a way that isn't OP.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about something else.
Yeah, let's talk about Brittle Bone Destroyer. So this is another Priest Warlock dual class card. It is a 4-mana rare 3/3 minion with the battle cry that reads, if your hero's health changed this turn, destroy a minion. So this is what I was alluding to when we talked about the Celestalon interview, in that they are not necessarily, giving Priest card draw or giving Warlocks heal. What they're doing instead with the dual classes is finding something that both classes do as part of their identity and then giving them a bonus for doing that thing. So in this case, if a Warlock's health goes down or a Priest's health goes up, that's both manipulating your health total, and so that will be the trigger for the battle cry on the Brittle Bone Destroyer. So it's a rare. You can have 2 of them. This card, I think, of all of the stuff we've seen in the last week, this is the one that I've seen the most discussion on Twitter about, with people being in like the polar opposite camps. So, Hat, what are your thoughts on Brittle Bone Destroyer? Where do you land?
So I am internally polarized
Okay.
because my heart says when I get to play Vile Spine Slayer again, I'm happy. That's what my
Right.
heart says. When I get to play a thing that kills a thing, love that, because that means I got bored and my opponent lost board at the same time.
Right, and there's no
This card-
caveats on what this kills, right? It just will destroy a minion. There's no
Just whatever you
attack or
want.
just whatever you want, targeted with a minion too, which is important if there's any kind of evasive minions seeing a lot of play, which some classes are playing with evasive minions right now.
So I think we can agree if you can trigger this effect on your 4-mana turn or just for 4 mana, it's bonkers crazy good. The
Yes.
question is, how frequently can you do that? Now, there are a bunch of ways to do it. On 4 mana, you can play Dark Glare on 3. That's the 3/4 that when you take damage, you refresh 2 mana crystals. So if you go Dark Glare on 3, tap Brittlebone on 4, that works. You could have a minion that has an Apotheosis under Lifesteal in general. You could, on 5 mana, you could play a Flame Imp or a Renew on yourself. There are ways to make it happen. The question is, if you're just using your hero power to activate this, if you're a priest, you're healing yourself, or if you're a warlock, you're tapping, is 6 mana, 3/3, kill a thing, and get a hero power, is that good enough? And I think it's really going to depend on that deck, because usually with this kind of effect, with this kind of minion, you want to be in a more proactive tempo-based deck. You're fighting for board with this card. If you're a control deck, you're going to look for cards more like Keladin the Breaker, where it unconditionally kills a thing no matter what you're doing, or sometimes it kills everything, or you're looking for more twisting nethers or brawls or whatever. This, you want to play it if you're trying to, if you care about having something on the board. Now, I think in a Galakron Priest, it could be really useful, but for 6 mana, we already have Aeon Reaver, which doesn't see a ton of play. I might be happy randomly generating this, but if I'm depending on sticking in Apotheosis for a turn, again, I'm already doing fine that game. I don't need this card to be active if I stuck in Apotheosis. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's in a lot of week 1 decks. But unless there are other tools to activate it that we haven't seen yet for 0 mana or 1 mana, I wouldn't be surprised if it's too narrow to see consistent play, unless we get a really tempo, mid-rangey focused version of either a priest or warlock deck that consistently plays with its own life total in a way that it can do for low mana investment or set up multiple turns in advance.